This is Lady B, and it's that time of year again when we mail out Christmas cards to our family and friends or business associates or whomever it is that you mail your cards to. Now, in the past, I used to make my own Christmas cards in Photoshop and send them via email to various friends and family because postage is expensive. And it can be if there's a lot of people you need to send it to. But about 2 years ago, I started actually making them and mailing them. And last year, when I was trying to decide what to do that year for my card, I was looking for inspiration. I was feeling very creatively bottomed out, and I just couldn't think of anything. And I stumbled across information about Victorian Christmas cards. Now, it was the Victorians who invented Christmas cards. The very first one was printed in 1843, and it was 3 years after the creation of the penny post over in England. And this created a flat rate that people could send cards through the mail. So the Valentine cards people, who already existed, saw this opportunity as a way of expanding their business. And that's how Christmas cards got started. And if you look up Victorian Christmas cards, there's a lot of variety. The early ones, a lot of them had romantic messages. There was a lot of whimsy involved. Also, children's stories, spring imagery, just all kinds of stuff that we would not normally think of as a Christmas card. There is some really great sites out there, in fact, that will have pictures of some of the more strange Victorian Christmas cards. And I had a lot of fun reading about this last year. And while I was looking this stuff up, I found this picture of a tri-fold Victorian Christmas card that was a real card that had been recently, a few years ago, in 2016, had been sold at auction for something like £2,400 or something. A lot of money for a card. But I guess it's a collector's item. But the pictures of this card were online, and I snagged them. And this year, I'm using it to try and recreate that original card for my Christmas cards this year. Now, I've made a proof of concept, and it's right here so you can see what it looks like, the envelopes I found. And what it is, like I said, it's a tri-fold, and you have a ribbon at the front, and you untie it, and there's your doors, and you open it up, and there's the inside of the house where they're celebrating Christmas. And then on the back, it has this little poem, I guess, by Samuel K. Cohen, M.A. And I just thought this was really cool. And so this is what I'm doing this year. Now, there's a few steps I had to take to get to the point where I could do this. The first thing, of course, was I had to take the pictures, the photographs, and I had to put them into Photoshop, a photo editor, and cleaned them up. Get rid of any part that wasn't the cards, separate each section as needed. Then once I had done that, I resized my picture that had the trifold in order to match the others, and took my cleaned up copies and pasted them into the same file as the trifold picture was. Now, I had to take the images and I had to swap them on the horizontal, flip them, in order to actually make sure that they matched up. Because this was a photograph, the photograph was not perfectly straight. I did have to go in and do some slight distortions in order to straighten up the edges and then make sure they matched. And then once I had managed to do that, Then I was able to save it as a separate file and size them for printing. Now I have a color printer now, which is really nice. And this let me print my pages. Now in the past 2 years, I had gone to a local printer, not one of these national chains, a local company, and they'd printed my cards for me. But this year I have my own printer, which gave me a little more flexibility. So I just went to that same company and bought my paper instead. I love them. They're wonderful. And I bought this paper and then I printed. That one's the back and front, and then this is the inside. So these are my cards. And once I had these printed, well, then it's time to make them. Now, before I printed my really nice prints that I'm going to be cutting out and using for the cards, the first thing I did was print some test pages. Both of, this one is the test page from with the back and the 2 front pieces. And I also printed one of the inside. And then I took the one from the inside and I cut it out. And I glued it onto some poster board. And then I cut that out as well. And I glued it onto the poster board in a way that had the gaps that I needed for the fold. And that's what I have right here. And the reason for this is my template for cutting out my felt. Because the thing that, see, nowadays we would just print the card on a 2-sided print that would, done professionally, match up and just cut out and just fold the paper. But that wasn't how this was done. This was 2 separate prints that then had a piece of fabric between them to hold them together. So this is my template for my fabric, for my felt. And I place this down on my felt, and I have here a fabric marker, the kind that you use for writing your name in tags on clothes, or even for decorative things these days. And I can use this marker then to outline my template. Like that. So there I have my template drawn out for my felt. So now I have to cut this out. And as I cut, I need to make sure and cut on the inside of the drawn line. There we go. And make sure I haven't turned that over. Good. Now, I don't know what kind of fabric the original card had. All I know is that it had red fabric. So I decided to go with a really thin craft felt that I picked up for 30 cents a sheet. Normally they're twice that, but I got them on sale. And now I need my tacky glue. And I need my already cut out inside. Because the next step is to cut these out. And I have cut out already a set of both the front and the back. Not the front and the back, the inside and the outside. The thing about cutting them out is you just make sure to not leave any of the white showing. It's okay if you go inside the line a little bit. It's not going to hurt it at all. But if you have any of the white from the page that's not from the print, it will stand out. It's okay to cut a little bit of the picture off. I know that there's people, in my time working with new artists, I've had many an artist panic on me at the idea of cutting any of the color off, whether it's in Photoshop in reality. It's okay. You can cut off part of the picture in order to not have a white outline. It's just fine. But this is cut out. And so I'm going to use tacky glue to glue it onto this felt. I went online and I did a whole lot of research to figure out what the best thing to use for gluing it onto felt was. And it just basically came down to Aleene's tacky glue. They're Aleene's original. It wasn't always the top of every list, but it was always in the top 3. So I just do a bead of glue all the way around, and then across through the middle, and maybe a little more on this bigger one. And then I'm going to carefully turn this over and center it. And I will be able to adjust it a little bit at the very beginning. I just have to make sure not to get any glue on my fingers and then onto the face of this, or it will damage the print of it. So in order to make sure that's not a problem, I have a piece of, if there's any question I've gotten anything on my finger, I can use a paper towel. And also for smoothing it. And we just press that down. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the sides. There. I'm trying to make sure these are spaced properly. And then I flip it over. Now, before I glue the outside on, I need to add a ribbon. Now I have already cut this one, and I've cut it so that it is 4 inches wider than the card itself. And I've taken just a little bit of the tacky glue and I have applied it to the ends so that they won't fray. Just as a kind of a quick fray check. And so now what I want to do is I want to take one of these sides. Oh, it'll be like that. And figure out where on the card I want the ribbon to go through. And I want it to go through about right there. So that's my location for my ribbon. I'm going to move it up just a touch, and then I'm going to drop a bead of glue here. Now you need the ribbon. The purpose of the ribbon isn't just to tie it. If it was just to tie it, you could just glue it on the ends and you'd be good. The reason the ribbon is going through the entire thing is because it acts the same way as that waist ribbon does in a corset. And that is, it provides stability to the entire thing so that it won't come apart from the folding and stuff. There we go. So take that and put that on it. And it's okay if you don't get it entirely even. And it's okay if you get a little glue through, because you're about to glue something else on top of it. So there, now that I have my ribbon, now I glue my other side. Ta-da! Just like the first one, I'm just going to run a bead of glue around the whole thing. And it will let me adjust it a little, but not much. So try and get it close to where you want it before pressing down. It's actually amazing how quickly this glue snags and grips and holds on. Now, when you're gluing on these outer doors, it is very important that you do not overlap the edge of the fabric. I actually did that with my proof of concept one, and that was a mistake. My doors will not close completely because that overhang is just enough that they butt up against each other and it doesn't close. So I actually want to see just a little bit of red to the side here so that I know I haven't gotten it too close there. Now you can tell I did not get my sizing perfect because there's this little teeny crack here and here, and on this side it's much wider. Of course, I got that crooked too, but that just means it's more forgiving. Now, I can't tie this till this dries. That's going to take about an hour, but in the meantime, I can make my other cards, and I have a total of about 6 more cards to make. So, that's what's next. And they're finished. That is the outside and the inside. And I think they look great. Now, I am going to set these to the side and let them dry overnight before I tie them like I have my first one. Then the other thing I need to do is personalization. Now, like I said, these are beautiful, but there's nowhere to sign and nowhere to leave any messages. So I went on to mintprintables.com and found these that I could print. They also have some lined ones I have right over here, but I decided to go with the blank ones. So I'll be writing little personalized messages to everybody I'm sending a card to with my signature, wishing them the best for these holidays. And I'll take them. Then I've made sure to get the right size that I could then slip inside my cards, close my doors, tie my little bow, and send my card to my friends. And there it is. But that is for tomorrow. So I'll see you then. And here is my last one. Notes written, tucked in, it's been tied. I just have to put it in the envelope. Now, I do have a tip I picked up about these ribbons. They're really nice for tying it, and they do provide the stability, but the thinner ribbon does work better. I bought this ribbon for the gold trim on it because I just love how it looked, but I ran out and I had to use some plain red ribbon I had for a couple of them, and it worked better than the pretty ribbon. So if I go with a gold trim ribbon in the future, I'm going to have to find one that's thinner than this. So your thinner ribbons are better than these ones. So you want one about 2/3 that width. But slide this in my envelope. And now I have all my cards finished. And I just need to mail them. And so the only thing left now is to wish all of you a happy holidays. Have a wonderful December. And enjoy. Have fun with making your Christmas cards if you make them, whether online or in the mail. If you enjoyed this, found it creative, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Until then, whether making your own Christmas cards or anything else creative, don't be afraid to suit yourself and make whatever you do exclusively you.